Hi everyone, welcome to Art Appreciation or a survey or Introduction to Art History course. My name is Kolya Rice. This is just a video introduction to the course, kind of like you would do on the first day of class if this were a face-to-face class, where everyone comes in and the syllabus is handed out and you go over, what the course is, where to get your textbooks, what to expect in the course, grading, course content, and so forth. We're, of course, completely online this quarter. And so, this is the closest alternative to a face-to-face first day of class. So what we're going to do is, at this point, you should have received an introductory email or an introductory announcement on Canvas, kind of explaining the basic ideas of the course and the way that it's structured. A lot of those ideas or that information we're going to go over again here today to make sure you feel comfortable navigating your way through Canvas, which is the way that you will receive information in this class through a series of Panopto video lectures and reserve readings, electronic reserve readings, as well as the way that you will submit assignments and take quizzes and so forth. If anywhere along the line you have a question that you think might be of benefit to other people, you'll notice the very first discussion board that we have on Canvas is a frequently asked questions discussion board. So you've got a question you think other people would benefit from hearing the answer to, just post your question there and I'll get back to you as quick as I can. So then let's just go through the syllabus. You should, of course, have found your way to Canvas. You're in the first module. These modules, as I'll go over again, are basically just organizational units, ways that I divide the course up so that you can work sequentially from the first module to the last module. It's like module 16 or something like that over the course of the quarter. And in this first module, hopefully you've found all the big things. A frequently asked questions discussion forum, a link in this module to the syllabus, which I would like you to have printed out right now in front of you. So if you haven't already printed this out, I think you should pause this lecture for just a minute and print that out so that you have it in front of you and you can jot down any questions that you might have on that syllabus and follow along with me. I will, of course, have it here on the screen. You should see, as you will with all the Panopto lectures, off to the left, my little talking box face, and off to the right, whatever is on my desktop. Most of the time, what you'll see off to the right are slides or images of the works of art that we'll be covering or examples for the ideas that we'll be covering. But today you see the syllabus, yeah? Now, just a couple of things before we even get started about the content. Every once in a while, people have problems viewing these videos in Panopto. That is almost always, as I said in the introductory letter that I sent to you, a problem that has to do or could be resolved with your browser or getting updates. So if you're viewing this and you're having problems, just change browsers, move from Chrome to Mozilla or, whatever, and see if that works first. If that doesn't work and you're still having problems, you're going to probably have to contact the technology department at Cascadia and see if they can troubleshoot for you. The other thing about Panopto lectures is if you view them, it depends on which browser you're using, but if you view these just by clicking on the link that is in the module, it has less functionality than it would have if you viewed it in Panopto itself, which is the little button off to the right-hand side. If you open this up in Panopto, you're able to, for instance, completely hide my face. You don't need to look at me while I'm lecturing. You can just listen to my voice if you want, and make the images that are on my laptop even bigger so that you can get bigger images of those. In any case, mess around with that a little bit until you find something that you are comfortable with. Yeah. So then on with this introduction. This is a kind of intro to art history or an art appreciation course. Um, it is meeting completely online. My name is Kolya Rice. I am an art historian who teaches both at Cascadia as well as Shoreline Community College, and my main job is at the University of Washington Seattle campus, where I teach modern and contemporary art history classes. I don't go by formal titles, so when you address me, either in an email or if you see me in the hallways at Cascadia or something, I would prefer it if you just call me Kolya rather than Dr. Rice or Mr. Rice or Professor Rice, if you don't mind. I have office hours every week, Monday and Wednesday from 11 to 12 and by appointment. It's almost always the best course of action for you to send me an email that says, hey, I want to see you in your office during your drop-in times, so that I'm not out wandering around in the hallways or doing kind of little catch-up work here or there and I might miss you. And then if you need to make an appointment with me, just send me an email and we'll figure out a time that we can actually meet face-to-face should that become important. My office is on Cascadia campus in CC3 129. That's my voicemail that you see there on the syllabus, but here's the thing, I very rarely check that phone number, and frankly no one ever calls me on it. That's why. And probably most of you work this way as well. If you want to get in touch with me, just send me an email either to my Cascadia email address, mkrice@cascadia.edu, or you can do it directly through Canvas. Just send me a message through Canvas and I will get that and respond to you as quickly as I can. So some rules about contact, right? I check my email. I'm a little bit obsessive compulsive many times a day, frankly. But after about 6 p.m., it's unlikely that I'll be checking my email. So if you send me an email at 6, don't expect me to get back to you until the following day. Likewise, if you send me an email on a Friday afternoon, there's a decent chance that I will get back to you, but honestly, let's be a little bit respectful of each other's times. I wouldn't expect you to be working on the weekend or, have you come into my office during the weekend. So if you send me a message on a Friday, it's really likely that I'll get back to you over the weekend. But if I don't, I'd say don't hold it against me, right? I need my weekends too. I am here to help you with anything you need. So if you're struggling with anything, if you have things come up in your life that are going to get in the way of this class, don't wait. Send me an email that explains your situation and let's work together to make sure that you succeed in this class, okay? Okay, so now on to the course description. Let's just read it over together. This is the standard boilerplate. This is what the course is. In this course, students examine their own emotional experience of art and think critically about its role and effects in everyday life. We develop visual literacy, which means we're learning how to read visual languages in this class by critically engaging visual and performative arts from around the world to consider distinctions and intersections between cultures, grasp the relationship between art and culture, and examine the social, political, economic, and historical context of art, including systems of power, privilege, inequality, and identity. Students learn the visual elements and principles of artistic expression, including shape, light, color, texture, rhythm, motion, and other concepts of art study. Artistic forms studied may include painting, sculpture, functional art, architecture, photography, printmaking, installation art, performance art, dance, theater, music, and even computer art. Now, let me boil that down. What this class is about is we spend the first about 3 weeks of the course really working on our terminology and visual literacy. And what this means is that during those first 3 weeks, we're asking really big, broad questions about things like, what are the traditional roles of the arts? How do we actively engage in arts? What's some of the key terminology that we can use together to get into great depth about what the meaning of these works of art are, how they functioned in their own historical time periods and so forth. And the big one is we learn visual literacy. We work really hard in these first 3-ish weeks to learn how to interrogate and analyze and interpret visual languages and some of the methodologies that are used in art history to interpret works of art. One of the reasons that we emphasize this so much is that while our content in this course is all about art, one of the things that occurs to me that is really important to all of you in your age, in which everything around you is visual information, right? You're working on screens all the time. You're communicating with each other through GIFs and through sending emails that have video attachments. And frankly, you're constantly being bombarded by visual information. There are very few courses out there that teach you how this visual information might be interpreted, how frankly it is being used to manipulate you or to communicate to you. And so again, while the content of this course is art and it's rich history, the types of analytic tools that you'll learn in this class are absolutely applicable to everything that you come in contact with that you might not call art. Movies, videos, your browser web page, frankly designing web pages and so forth. This course can help you out with those things as well. So let's move on to page number 2. You have a textbook for this course. The textbook is Henry Sayre's A World of Art, the 8th edition from 2016. That's a textbook that you can get in the Cascadia bookstore. You can get online as well. You can rent it. You can get electronic versions of it. It's on reserve in the Cascadia library for those of you who are, want to keep your budgetary costs down and so forth. But it is a relatively expensive textbook unless you get it used or you rent it. If you want to buy a 7th edition or frankly even a 6th edition, there's very few changes in these editions. The big one though is that the chapters are a little bit different. So again, best course of action is you buy the 8th edition, but if you're trying to save money and you see a 7th edition out there that's way less and you're like, can I use that? Yeah, you can use it with the caveat or warning that you may have to do a little bit of work to make sure that the chapters that I assign in these modules and on the syllabus actually line up with your earlier edition. It won't take much work. It's really straightforward. You'll see me head a chapter that says we're dealing with the formal elements of line, shape, and color, and each one of the chapters is either about line, shape, and color, and you'll be able to figure it out. The other source of readings are that on Canvas within each module, when this shows up, you'll have electronic reserves, or just what I call ERs. They're links to PDF files on special topic readings. Again, you don't have to go search these out. They will be on the assignment for whatever week they show up with a little link. You push the little link and you'll find the PDF file, which you can download and print off or just read on your screen if you want. Now, as I said in the introductory email, how does this course work? Well, the course is organized sequentially. Every week, you will have 1 or 2 modules. Modules are just these organizational units. So you're in a module right now, right? It's the introduction to the course, and it will have the introductory lecture on the first chapter of the textbook next. Within these modules, then, you will find things like the lecture guides for each lecture. You want to click on that and print it out. The lecture guides have on them all of the names of the major artists and the works of art and the dates of those works of art and any of the key terminology that will be used in the lecture. And you can have that off to the side in front of you and write notes on it, or you can have it pulled up on your screen and type into it. They're all Word documents for you to mess around with. They will also have these Panopto lectures in the modules. That is the main way that course content is delivered to you. Now, with these Panopto lectures, within each module, you might have 1 or 2 Panopto lectures, and they range in length, by the way, anywhere from an hour to maybe an hour and a half or so for the videos. Sometimes there are 3 lectures within a module, depending on what the topic is, right? But they're all there for you. You'll also see in these modules your various assignments. So you will have just about every week, unless there's a quiz, you will have an online discussion forum, and you will have a summary reflective paper on a topic for that week. Now, as we'll see as I go forward, and as you will have read already, every week that you have a discussion forum, you will need to post your initial discussion post by Wednesday of that week. So by Wednesday midnight, you have to have your initial discussion post in. So for instance, this first discussion that I asked you to work on is, what do you think art is? Now this week's a weird week because we start midweek, but most weeks you'll be turning these in on Wednesdays. You post your initial post. Those initial posts, by the way, should be at least 250 words, right? They're not just 1 or 2 sentences. They're a healthy paragraph that you're posting. And then when I ask you, and this will be most of the weeks, you will need to respond to the post of one of your peers, at least one of your peers, by Friday at midnight to receive full credit. So that happens just about every week, unless you have a quiz. The other thing that you'll have to do is just about every week, unless you have a quiz on that week, you'll be required to write a 2 to 3 page summary reflective paper on some topic or work of art that we've covered during that week. Those are always due on Friday by midnight. Okay, so then student responsibilities. Number 1, you have 3 quizzes pretty much equally spaced out over the course of the quarter that are worth 15% each. Each quiz requires you to write shorter answers and longer essays on topics covered in the Panopto lectures and readings during that sequence, right? These are always open note quizzes. You may return to the lectures and the readings when composing your answers, and each quiz will only cover the topics for that, section of the course. I have in here 5 weeks, but it's less than that this quarter. It's about 3 or 4 weeks every time. In other words, these aren't comprehensive, and they're all graded on a 100-point scale. So again, to recap this, all of your quizzes are open note. When you have a quiz, it will open on the Monday of whatever week that quiz is, assigned for, and you will have all week to work on it, and it will be turned in on either Friday or a Sunday. So lots of time to work on these things. That's 45% of your overall grade. The second component, as I went over just a moment ago, are these summary reflective papers on reading assignments, as well as, frankly, lecture assignments. They're going to be spaced out just about every week unless you've got a quiz, and they make up about 35% of your overall grade. This is to ensure that you understand the lecture topics and that you have a chance to really think your way through some of the bigger questions through the process of writing. They're all graded, by the way, on a 10-point scale. Every reading has a reading guide, by the way, and this will help cue you in on what you are to focus on. And by every reading, I mean just those electronic reserve readings. The text readings are really straightforward. The third component of your grading and your assignments are these weekly discussion forums. As I said before, every week, just about, you will be asked to both make a post as well as respond to the post of one of your peers. The idea here is to get you to do what you would do in class when a professor asks you to have a discussion about a particular topic, but to do it online. This makes up 20% of your grades, and I always give you a very specific prompt, but here's the thing that usually trips people up. I want your discussion forum post to be rich and thoughtful. Anything that's one or two sentences isn't enough. And if you're thinking, well, I just have a one sentence question, right? It's just like, what is this supposed to mean? That's all I need to ask. Well, one of the ways to make it a more rich post is to say, here's what I want to ask. This is why I'm asking it. This is the type of question that I have in mind that will be answered by you. And here's what I understand about, the topic in the first place. In other words, say, hey, you were talking about the tradition of classicism this week, and I got a little bit confused about classicism. Now, instead of just saying something like, what is classicism? You should say, what I understand is that classicism is about this, 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 and this, but I'm a little bit hazy about whether it means this and this. That will solve the problem of very short discussion posts, right? Explain yourself. Yeah? So in the first, especially 2 or 3 weeks, you'll get tons of feedback on this, especially if you're not doing what I want you to do. If your discussion posts are too vague, or they're too broad, or they're too short, you'll definitely get a lot of feedback from me, and you have plenty of time over the course of this quarter to get better and better as the quarter goes along. After all, Cascadia's entire approach to teaching is assessment-based feedback models, right? So I ask you to do something, you do your best to achieve what you think it is that I'm asking you to do, and if you don't achieve what I want you to do or don't hit it at the standard that I'm hoping that you can attain, I give you feedback so that the next week you can do it even better, and on and on. Late papers and discussion post policy. You got to stay on task, right? So papers, these reflective essay papers are marked down 1 point for each date they're late, and they won't be accepted if more than 5 calendar days following the due date, unless you have contacted me and I've given you special dispensation. Discussion posts, because a discussion necessitates some kind of collaboration with your peers, you have to be even more on top of these. Discussion posts are marked down 2 points for each day that they're late, and I won't accept them if they're more than 3 days late. Now, if you only make a discussion post and you don't respond to one of your peers, you're going to miss half of the points on that discussion post. So make sure that you do both things. Post the discussion and respond to your peers when required. The 10-point scale breaks down roughly this way, as you see here in the 100-point scale. Which is what you'll be graded on at the end of the quarter, is based upon that metric. Now I'm going to skip past something that's probably familiar to a lot of you if you've been at Cascadia before, which is all our learning outcomes. You look over these on your own. It gives you a much longer, more thorough kind of version of what we're going to try to achieve in this course, right? And I'm going to skip over the Cascadia College Syllabus Learning Agreement, which you can look over on your own. This has, all of the, and you'll find this in every syllabus that you get from Cascadia, all of the basic information that is helpful to you about what our commitment is to pluralism and diversity or inclusion, academic honesty. Please don't plagiarize. If I catch you plagiarizing, cutting and pasting things that you find on the web, which is easy, by the way, to find out these days, I'll fail you on that assignment, and you will be, if you have 1 or 2 strikes on this, you will be reported to Cascadia on this. So skipping over this to the final thing, and this is kind of all we need to cover for this lecture. At the very end of the syllabus, you'll see the course outline and schedule, and you'll see all the assignments. The specifics of those assignments will be found on the modules for each week. So week number 1, module number 1, which you're looking at this Panopto video lecture. You'll have another Panopto video lecture on the first content for the class, the introductory chapter. You've been asked to write a discussion forum where you post a personal bio right? Just tell us who you are. And then another discussion forum. These are both due, of course, on Friday this week. And that discussion forum is, well, I should say, if you're viewing this in fall quarter, because this course gets taught many different times, these will be due on Friday. If it is on winter quarter or spring quarter, this may be due on a Wednesday or a Thursday. Check Canvas, I should have said that. In any case, your second discussion forum post is, what is art? So you don't need to know anything about art. All I want you to do is post something that says, this is what I think art is. Now, in both of these situations, you will not be able to see other people's posts until you post yourself, right? So you can't check someone else's answer and kind of summarize their ideas in your own answer. You'll have to post, and then once you post, you'll see everyone else's posts out there. Yeah. Then you have your readings on the readings page, where you have to read your text, basically parts of the introductory chapter in chapter 1. That's week number 1. Week number 2, I'm not going to go over every week here, but week number 2, you just have one module, right? And that will be various chapters of the text. You'll have a Panopto video lecture, a discussion forum, and a summary reflective essay. And then week number 3, you'll notice here, we go on to, the final kind of major early chapter of the text, and you will have a quiz due at the end of week number 3. Once we get past week number 3, which is a kind of introduction to visual literacy and the key terminology, we start a long series of modules that are devoted to different periods of world art. And we do that for the rest of the quarter. Basically, what you're getting is a kind of hors d'oeuvre tray of the various art history courses that you could take at Cascadia or elsewhere that are basically about ancient arts, medieval arts, and Renaissance to modern arts. So we start with prehistoric arts in week number 4, and then we move all the way up to Impressionist art of the 19th century. Now, if you were to take an art history course, we would spend a lot more time on each of these areas, and you'd get, great deal more information. So think of this as a kind of overview of some of the major periods of art history. Now, all of the videos that you'll see from this point forward, week number 4, all the way to the end of the class, are videos that were originally taped for the art history sequences. So there's not, there may be references to things that you haven't heard of from time to time. Don't worry about those. And every once in a while at the beginning of the lecture, you'll hear me refer to a lecture guide that is probably not the same lecture guide as that you're using for this art appreciation course or survey of art history course. Don't worry about that. Just forget that. The correct lecture guide will accompany the video as a link, and you just click on that as you would have during the first 3 weeks and print it out, and everything should be golden. If you come into contact with any problems or you have any questions about anything anywhere along the way, remember, just send me an email or post it on the FACT discussion forum, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I'm really looking forward to a fun quarter with you. I find this course to be pretty interesting. It's meant to entice you to spend a little bit more time with art. You're going to see things that you are familiar with and other things that you aren't. But more often than not, you're going to see things that you're like, oh yeah, cool. I've always wanted to know more about, for instance, Stonehenge. That's where we start. I wanted to know more about the Italian Renaissance or arts of Egypt and why they built pyramids. And all of those things come up in this course. So have fun with it, do well, and if you have any questions, please hit me up. Now you should move on to, if you haven't already, post your discussion forums, right? What is art? And give me a brief bio and upload a picture, by the way, to Canvas. That's helpful for everyone to see who you are. And then move on to the first content-based lecture of the course, which deals with Chapter 1 of your text. All right, talk to you soon.